Hey, Sheriff Matt Aller, welcome to beautiful Audrain County. It's about 54 degrees today, but it's kind of windy. There's actually a wind advisory for my part of the state a little bit later today, but it's already started to pick up. So we had to change directions that we're going to shoot. So the scenery may look a little different, but we're still here on the farm. As I've told you guys before, we're going to jump right into this. As I've told you guys before, I'm in my 30th year as a police officer. I spent, 23 years, I guess, as a deputy sheriff, and then worked my way up through the ranks, through investigations, and finally was elected in 2017. But about 10 years of my career, back when I was in patrol and detectives, I spent as a firearms instructor for both my agency and State Police Academy basic training for recruits. And during that time, for probably the last 30 years, there's been this great debate. And today, we're going to put it to bed. And it's the debate over 9mm and 40 caliber. So today, we're going to be using duty ammunition. 180 grain, 147 grain. Today we're going to be using duty ammunition, but during my time as a firearms instructor, we had a lot of people show up to both basic training and in service at my own agency with 40 caliber pistols because that was all the rage. 40 was better. So a little bit of history. The 9mm was developed in 1901, I think, and went into continuous production in 1902. Been in production ever since. The 40 caliber is actually, I call it the question to the answer, or the answer to the question that nobody asked, or the solution in search of a problem. The 40 caliber actually was developed because the FBI switched to the 10mm, which is a very powerful cartridge. They found out after a couple of years that their smaller statured agents, and even a lot of experienced agents, could not tame the recoil well enough to be able to pass qualifications. Their split times were slower. The recoil impulse of the gun was very sharp. You were somewhere probably close to like 41 Magnum territory. And it was also a very long round. And it took a bigger framed gun, and a lot of people with smaller hands couldn't get their hand comfortably around that gun to be able to control it. So the FBI requested Smith & Wesson and Winchester to develop something that wasn't a 9mm. Why? I don't know. So they shortened the 10mm automatic, and you can see that the overall cartridge length of these is, my big fat finger's in the way, but the overall cartridge length of these is almost identical. Now the shell casing on the 10mm is a little longer. Dropped it. But overall cartridge length is about the same. What that allowed them to do was get this bigger caliber into the same size gun that they were using for 9mm, so that agents with smaller hands and policemen with smaller hands could get their hands around it. So the 40 Smith & Wesson was not necessarily a development because it was better. 40 Smith & Wesson was a development that came out of not being able to use the 10mm. So there's a great debate, especially amongst cops, about 9mm versus 40 caliber. And we saw a lot of basic recruits and even some in-service folks come in to firearms with 40 caliber handguns. And being familiar with the 40 caliber myself, the first thing I did was went out and bought one. And they couldn't tame the recoil, especially smaller statured females, males with smaller hands. They just could not tame the recoil of the 40 caliber. Now, there's going to be people that'll argue with me and say that the 40 caliber does not recoil that badly. And you're probably right. To an experienced shooter, it probably doesn't. But to someone when you're trying to get into a debate about whether or not hits matter. So if you can't hit what you're shooting at, then you need to come up with something different. So we would literally take basic training recruits on day one, have them load magazines full, go out and slow fire the qualification course. No time, no stress, nothing like that. And in every class, there was at least 2 or 3 that we had to send away to go find a 9mm pistol, or we would loan them one, because the goal was to build confidence, right? Not destroy their confidence and tell them that it's really going to take hard work to be able to control that, you know, all the things that come along with that. Myself and the other instructor would simply go to our range bag, get out a 9mm pistol, hand it to them, and have them shoot that same course of fire, and they would inevitably do much better. So there is a real thing about recoil impulse and recoil control. And I'm an experienced shooter. I haven't done this in a long time, but we're going to compare 9mm and 40 caliber for accuracy and speed. And speed and accuracy combined. Now, to eliminate as many variables as possible, we have identical pistols. This is a Glock 19 Gen 4. This is a Glock 23 Gen 4. So when you look at Glock's website and look at the specs on these guns, other than caliber, they are the exact same gun. So that eliminates the variable of one gun's heavier, one gun's lighter. The recoil impulse, you'll get a true recoil impulse feeling when you use 2 of the same gun. And again, the ammunition we're going to use is duty ammunition. So that being said, I think we're going to jump right off into this. You can see that I've got my wife's fine chinette right there at about 8 yards. We're going to shoot the 40 caliber first at the top plate, slow fire, 8 rounds, and we'll see how we do. Also, in order to keep this as many variables out as possible, I'm going to use my good glasses here instead of my sunglasses. All right, here we go, 40 caliber. And 9mm. Let's go down and take a look at that. I'm a little out of practice, but group was about the same. And I don't know if you guys could see the pistol, but so there's the 9mm, there's the 40 caliber. I don't know if you guys could see the pistol. The recoil impulse from that 40 caliber was much more than the 9mm. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down and mark them holes so we can just keep the same target up. while we're talking, we're going to reload magazines. So, the great debate between 9 and 40 is always fun to listen to, because inevitably there will be one guy show up like me that's a 45 guy, and then 45 will enter the discussion, and we'll get to that here in a couple minutes. You know, when 45 shows up, there's usually a fairly substantial argument that takes place between the 9, the 40, and the 45 guys. But now we're going to shoot a 5x5 with each gun. Forgot my shot timer, so maybe one of you guys at home with a shot timer can time this out. But I can already tell you that I'm probably, one of two things is going to happen. Either A, I'm going to be slower with the 40, or B, I'll be as fast but not as accurate. Just a guess. All right, top target. And to eliminate variables, we're not going to draw from concealment. We're just going to start at low ready. All right, 9mm bottom target. Wander down and take a look. So let's see, the 40 caliber target, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right there. Then the 9mm target, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's 2 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 up here through that one. Looks weird because it's at an angle. No, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That mark goes to that hole right there. So, shot a little high with the 9, but it's a lighter gun than I'm used to carrying, and the recoil impulse is a little bit more. But you can see 5x5 that most of those are where they should be. They're on the target. They're all hits. So here's my point to this whole 40 versus 9 debate, and I'm going to put a ballistics chart up at the end of this presentation. But here's how we can all put this to bed. When you look at a ballistics chart, the difference in performance between 9mm, 357 SIG, 40 caliber are all, regardless of bullet weight, are all pretty comparable. In the FBI testing, they get just over 12 inches, maybe closer to 13, through, I think it's 4 layers of denim and then ballistics gel. When you look at that chart and you look at a block of gelatin that carefully controlled tests have been performed on, none of those will stand out from the others. You do not get superior ballistic performance from any service grade caliber. Again, 9, 357 SIG, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 45 ACP. All 4 of those are so close that it just don't matter. You don't really see a standout in ballistic performance until you go up to 10mm and 357 Magnum, or any of the Magnum revolver cartridges like 41 Magnum, things like that. So my point is to this debate is that there is no debate. None of them are going to serve you any better than the other one, except for one condition. carry the one that you shoot the best and you're the most comfortable with. Don't get hung up on calibers if you're going to buy a gun. Caliber, especially if it's a service caliber. Now, there's debates about 380 and there's debates about 22 and 32 and all that stuff. But when you really start looking at it, those don't necessarily underperform, and these don't necessarily outperform those. So unless you're moving up to a 10 millimeter or a Magnum cartridge, don't get hung up on caliber. Find a gun that you shoot well and that you're comfortable with, because here's what we know about gunfights. The best gun to have in a gunfight is the one you have with you and the one you shoot well. So, that being said, this debate is now over, or it should be over. Now, there will be, I promise you, there will be comments on here from folks that tell me, oh, the 9mm weak, the 40 caliber's better, 45 ACP, and I carry a 45. Now, that being said, I'll tell you that while I'm out here today, I'm going to run the round count up on my Springfield Armory SA-35, because the controls are the same as the 1911, the grip angle's the same. So, as we now know, ballistic performance between 9 and 45, there really ain't much. So once I get dependability built up in this gun, you know, get 1,000 or so rounds through it, I'll update you, but this will probably turn into my everyday carry and my duty pistol, simply because I get 15 rounds and it doesn't perform any worse than the 45 I've been carrying for 15 years that I get 9 rounds out of. So, and more bullets are better, right? So anyway, this debate should absolutely be put to bed. There should be no more debate about this. So when this video, at the end of this video here in just a second, I'm going to put up a gelatin shot. That sounded weird, right? It's not like we're drinking. I'm going to put up a shot photograph of ballistic gelatin with each of these rounds and their penetrations and their wound cavities. And you should notice the same thing I do, that none of them stand out from the other, and they're not going to. So anyway, from beautiful Audrain County, Missouri, Sheriff Matt Aller, have a great day.